Hello and welcome to another episode of our airbrush comparison videos. This time we're starting with a side feed airbrush from Grex, model XSI3 with 0.3mm nozzle. It comes standard with a soft pad on the trigger and a soft grip around the airbrush body and air valve. These features should make this model more comfortable for a user working long hours with an airbrush. Another cool feature is the magnetic needle protection cap. Super easy to remove to wipe the needle tip and place it back. Pretty easy to lose if you drop the airbrush, but they're not expensive to replace. Sprays nicely, good detail, and easy to understand trigger control. Side adapter allows us to connect larger siphon feed bottles, which can be beneficial for some users. Made in Taiwan, where a lot of quality products for airbrushing are made, and this product is not an exception. Good overall quality. The next stop is an airbrush from China. It says Fengda on the body of this one because it came directly from the manufacturer. But it is also imported worldwide under many different names, including the No Name series by Spray Gunner. The model BD-180 is made after the Micron design, but instead of a 0.18mm nozzle, it comes with a 0.2mm. It does feel exactly as it's priced. It's cheap. Squeaking sounds here and there. The trigger has a bit of play in all directions compared to more expensive brushes, but it did produce our standard test image. It can go from hairline to relatively wide and sprays gradients as needed. One critical thing we noticed is that it makes a broken line for some reason. Instead of a solid line, you can see multiple dots next to each other. Aztec airbrush is something special, not necessarily in the right way. The airbrush body has a very unusual shape, and we found it inconvenient to use. It has corners and seams like no matter how you hold the airbrush, one of these corners will lay against your skin, hurting and leaving a mark even after a few minutes of use. Setting up the airbrush took us some time, but when we were able to make it trigger a response, it actually delivered pretty good results, as you can judge by the final image. It could be a useful tool for someone unfamiliar to traditional airbrushes, but it's not for our studio. Next comes a German-made airbrush from the brand Hansa, now owned by Harder and Steenbeck, the model 281. Exceptional build quality, looks good and feels good. It's one of the so-called automatic airbrushes, or double dependent action, as we like to call it. Instead of pushing the trigger down for air, it is just pulled back, and the air starts first. Keep pulling back, and paint flow will join the airflow. Most beginners in airbrushing have a problem of forgetting to push the trigger for air before pulling it back, creating a splatter of paint. This airbrush won't allow it, but for someone who is experienced, it might be a bad thing. Finger used to push the trigger down, and Hansa's trigger has a specific conical shape meant to pull back, and it hurts the finger if pushed down for a few minutes. Controlling at the detailed level is impressive. The hairline can be a middle name of this airbrush in the right hands, but it can also spray larger areas. So if you're new to airbrushing and looking for a go-to tool, check out the Hansa 281. We can't make an airbrush comparison without a participant from Japan. This time we have the GSI Craos PS275 airbrush. It has a pistol-type trigger. For someone used to a traditional double-action trigger style, it might take some time to adopt. Our artist didn't have any practice before shooting this video, so you will see some broken lines on the final picture. It's not caused by the airbrush issues, but by its sensitivity. Good thing for an experienced user, of course. Overall, it did well in our test. It handles gradients in different lines, one of the best quality brands available on the market. Our last stop is our most significant surprise in this comparison. Harder and Steenbeck Infinity with 0.4mm nozzle. There is nothing new we can say about the airbrush overall. It's gorgeous and high quality. We had this model with a 0.15mm nozzle in our previous videos, and it was impressive for details, but not really a general use airbrush because of the tiny nozzle size. We also tested a 0.4mm Evolution model from the same brand, and it was spraying too heavy, making it a bad choice for detail work. This Infinity has the same needle and nozzle as the Evolution we had. The only difference is the air cap, and this difference is tremendous. They're not joking when they're calling the Infinity air cap a fine line air cap. Even with a 0.4mm nozzle, it handles tiny lines and dots smoother than some 0.2mm airbrushes would. But since it has a large 0.4mm nozzle, it's also capable of wider sprays, making it one of the best general use airbrushes we have ever had the pleasure to spray. We hope this video was helpful to you. Please subscribe and let us know in the comments which model you chose and why.